Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Before we dive in, I want to introduce you to the expert who will be guiding us through these powerful strategies, Brad Stevens. Brad is a purpose-driven entrepreneur and has built global businesses across 18 countries. He is the founder and CEO of Outsource Access, a multi-awarded offshoring business backed by close to 500 employees. Outsource Access has experience connecting 75 industries with virtual teams to help them scale and succeed. He also co-founded a software platform, One-on-One Connections, which is the only private label connections program for member organizations and conferences across 10 countries and 20,000 plus matches to date. Under his leadership, Outsource Access has received 8 national or global awards, including Pace Setters, Inc. Regionals, ranking in the top 7% of fastest growing companies in the US on the Inc. 5000. Ladies and gents, here's Brad Stevens.
Well, hello, everybody in the LinkedIn and other social platforms maybe streaming this. Super excited to come to another LinkedIn Live. We've been loving this platform and format, and super stoked to be having a good friend of mine and fellow content kind of machine out there, Jon Ostenson, with me today. Hey, man, how are you?
Hey, doing great. Excited to be here, Brad.
Awesome, man. Well, we're going to have a good session here today, and going to be 30 minutes to hyper takeaway value. Both of our subject matter, I think, pretty relevant in a lot of people's worlds. And so we're gonna dive right in here and jump in and get some high takeaway value experience for you. And we also got some freebies we'll be sharing with you as well, specifically on the whole offshore outsourcing side and how you can leverage VAs, and a guide that we have around that, specifically around franchising and our franchise support system, and actually branded the whole model Franchise Virtual Assistant. And then Jon, you'll be sharing everybody how to access the non-food franchising book from the author himself, right?
That's right. We'd love to share a free copy with everyone that's interested.
Awesome. And it's a very unique content in this space. Jon's got a pretty unique ownership of this corner, and been pretty impressed with how he's kind of structured it, and just amazing following and seeing his journey. So as you guys saw, the title for our topic here today, right, is Own the Business, not the job, and talking about how you can really leverage the world of franchising as a path of business ownership. And Jon will be kind of sharing some of the background of individuals he's worked with, and then how you can scale that in a different type of way than most people have typically seen as it relates to using offshore virtual assistants and outsourcing. And I'll be talking about a lot of case studies and examples that we've experienced with businesses and in the franchise world, very specifically. So we're going to kind of break this up in a couple of tight sessions here. So quickly, Jon, we'll do kind of a quick 2-minute intro background on yourself. I'll do the same, and then we're going to jump right into the meat of it.
Yeah,
I'll let
absolutely.
you lead.
Yeah, no, excited to be here. And like so many of your listeners, our listeners, I spent many years in the corporate world, had a great run, very thankful for the time that I had there, but you always had that desire to do something more entrepreneurial, to put my thumbprints on a business that I personally built, do it for my kids, do it for my family, and just for myself. And never knew what that $1 million idea was, and really stumbled into franchising about 9 years ago. Was very blessed to have the opportunity to step in as president of Shelf Genie franchise system, and lead a large team supporting all of our franchisees across North America, and really fell in love with the franchise model through that experience, and saw how so many different backgrounds could come together around a shared system, a shared support platform, and go off and become business owners. And so fell in love with the model. Long story short, since then, I've invested in franchises myself on the franchisee side, multiple brands. And I've got good people running those now, and allows me to spend most of my time for the past 5 or 6 years helping others do the same. So I work with entrepreneurs and investors all across the country, help them connect the dots on how to get into business ownership through what I call non-food franchising. So we take out, the other half of the market outside of the fast food arena, and go deep in a bunch of different industries, which we'll talk about today, and help people kind of hold their hand through the process. We work with over 600 different franchise companies, and it's entirely free to work with us. So you can think of me as a real estate broker, but for franchises. And end of the day, we're playing matchmaker, and we simply get a referral fee from the franchisor. So I always like to get that out of the way, but look forward to adding a lot of value today.
Thanks, Jon. And Jon and our part, we've had a chance to kind of see both each other's journeys, each other's business. So we're in an organization called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, and it's been amazing to see his path. And you could not get a more authentic, genuine individual to really help guide your path in this industry. It can have different perceptions and different people that have worked with different advisors in different capacities. And Jon is definitely represents what he does very, very well, and has had amazing accolades from the clients he's worked with and the feedback on getting them the right choice and helping them in their success. And so my world, we're both actually in Atlanta, Georgia, is where both of us live, and originally from here. And I've been a lifetime entrepreneur myself for 25 years, built a number of different companies. So I've been living in the entrepreneurial path for a number of years. And building my last company, started working with the whole world of offshore staffing and virtual assistants. We built a company where we manufactured and distributed teeth whitening products globally. And I started working with offshore talent in different countries and just was blown away by their capabilities, their talent. And so, long story short, it helped me get through some challenges in that business. And on the other side of that company, decided I want to get in that space. And so for a number of years, did a lot of speaking and consulting and educating. I got a chance to speak to hundreds of organizations globally. If any of you are out there that are looking for speakers and education, I do a lot of content on this. Love sharing the case studies and education. And then it was my forum, actually, that we're in EO. They're like, Brad, you talk about this stuff all the time. Why don't you just launch your own, offshore staffing? And so, based on the failure points I saw with a lot of companies in this whole world of offshore outsourcing, virtual assistants. When I say that word, a lot of word bubbles pop above people's heads. What I call doubt, fears, concerns. What about competency? What about ability? What about time zones? And so we committed at Outsource Access, launched 6 years ago. We grew to 500 employees in about 4.5 years, about 85 different industries, providing fully competent, integrated staff working side by side, with small to medium business owners. And ended up started working a lot in the franchise space. About a year and a half ago, we had some franchisees come to us with different brands. And, I had a lot of people telling me, Brad, you ought to really go into this space. There's a lot of opportunity for you to support both at the franchisor level, multi-unit franchisees, even individuals. And so we stepped into that and got a chance to work with a number of national brands and the multi-unit owners. And so it's been a great journey and kind of seeing both of our worlds, kind of come together. And Jon's been a huge, insight into that path as well. And so it's been excited to go down that space. So that's kind of where we came from. That's a bit of our origin that kind of brought our worlds together. So let's bring those two subjects together. And on the topic today, right? Own the business, not the job. How franchising, right, can be a scalable path to freedom, right? And so, even without us, it's a great great business model, a great turnkey solution. You're getting kind of a model that's been proven and baked out. But we can show also if you layer on, VAs and offshoring as a part of the equation, it can amplify that scale and growth even further, which we'll jump into. So, so real quick, I'm just going to start off with Jon just to kind of lay the groundwork on what's going on in the industry. I mean, franchising is evolving right now. The different industries, the types of businesses. We got everything from obviously food, but Jon's main focus is the non-food space, and even within that, there's a ton of different categories, from roofing to gutters to foot solutions, what I know Jon's kind of a part of, even to Jon referred me to a franchise he works with that does driveway repair. I'm actually staring out my driveway right now. They did a phenomenal job of fixing some cracks for us. Great path. So Jon, just give like a so quick insight, what you're seeing, kind of what are the trends that are going on in the non-food world. You work with, tell how many brands you work with, and you have a unique perception and perspective on the whole industry and where the trends are heading for 24, 25, or 25, 26, I guess now where we are.
Absolutely. No, I do get to see a lot from where I sit. And, I've never seen so much interest in franchising. I think there's a growing awareness. I think for a variety of reasons, people are looking to jump in, even like real estate investors. There's lack of inventory out there, high interest rates. So they're moving over saying, hey, what's another tax advantaged alternative investment? There's just a lot of synergies from a mindset standpoint there. But we're seeing all walks of life. I just had a doctor, buy a restoration company. I had an attorney buy a gutter company. I've had I can just go down the list, and so a lot of people jumping in. About half of those that we work with are jumping in as owner operators, where they run the day-to-day business, typically with the goal of eventually replacing themselves. The other half jump in as what we call executive or semi-absentee owners. Now, I prefer to call them semi-involved, because even if you put a manager in place, it comes down to having a great manager as to what level of involvement you're going to be in. But a lot of people do keep their W-2s, get the business going on the side. Now, again, I never want to sugarcoat it. If it was easy, everyone would be a business owner, right? So it does take work. It's not a passive investment. But if you have the right person in place and you have the support system of the franchise on the sideline, it really can, become semi-passive over time. And, you layer that with a virtual assistants, which Brad will dig into in detail here in a minute. I mean, that's just an and one, in my opinion. So, no, to Brad's point, we're seeing interest across a variety of different industries, everything from home and property services. So much smart money getting involved there, whether it be insulation, dumpsters, flooring, roofing, so many niches within that. I mean, I've got a parking lot franchise myself. It's asphalt paving and line striping. That's non-sexy, non-trendy. It's not going out of style. We've got another one that provides temporary walls around construction sites. Riches in the niches, right? And so property services is huge. A lot of private equity getting involved there. Anything related to health and wellness is huge. Then categories like kids, pets, seniors. I'd say overall the theme is businesses that are not going out of style, that people will always spend on regardless of the economy, that are scalable, cash flowing, and understandable. And so, franchising is not right for everyone. Some people are too entrepreneurial. They think they're the smartest guy in the room, no matter what room they're in, and they're not willing to follow a playbook. But for the vast majority of would-be business owners, based on everything that I see, it's my humble belief that they would be better served going down the franchise path, just from a support standpoint. And, Brad, you kind of alluded to this earlier. Franchising is just like any industry. You've got great players, and you've got some that are not so great, that don't provide the support to the franchisees that, essentially you don't get what you're paying for. And that's where we come in to help guide our clients through a process where we identify the top available opportunities in their market. And then we play matchmaker, presenting them with 8, 10, 12 opportunities that if I was in their shoes, which ones would I want to be looking at? And then we help them understand the funding side and how to review an FDD and get plugged in on the recruiting side and potentially the support side too, which is where Brad comes in.
Now, and I think that's a great thing to expand on, Jon, with what you've uniquely structured yourself as you've created kind of a support system around you, right? I mean, because you stay in your lane in terms of what your expertise is, and creating awareness for for yourself, for those that are interested. But then you've kind of created a support system for yourself, whether it's legal advisors, other. Share a little bit more about what that support system looks like for you, the additional professionals.
Yeah, so we've got, I'd say the funding partners are a big piece here. So, most people are looking to leverage, using an SBA loan. Obviously, banks prefer lending to franchises. That's very, very common. So, we've got lending partners. We've got partners that can help them with the retirement rollover to fund their business. We have several franchise attorneys, again, not on our payroll, but they're in our ecosystem. They're partners of ours, attorneys that can review that agreement with you. We've got someone that can help recruit a general manager for you if you need that. Again, they give us a discounted rate. There's still a charge behind it. But then Brad, if you go out to our website, you'll see Brad's pretty face out there that, he represents the assistant side, because I think more and more franchisees are getting involved, understanding that the importance of having not just a shared system in the franchisor, but also having, that on the ground support. And it's just amazing what Brad's VAs can do. So, and I'll hit on one other thing, one other theme that we're seeing in franchising today. We're seeing a lot of people come to me and say, "Hey, Jon, we've been looking at existing businesses, ETA. There are a lot of talking heads out there. There's a lot of content around that idea of buying an existing business." That can be a great avenue for someone if they find the right opportunity. But the stories I hear every day, I've been looking for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. I've been under LOI 7 times. Due diligence didn't shake out. Someone outbid me. And so they come around to the idea of, hey, franchising maybe makes a lot more sense, and it kind of de-risk it too. With an existing business, you've got a team in place, customer is in place, but you're paying a premium for the business, assuming everything stays the same, and yet you're inheriting someone else's customers, someone else's, employees. And whenever that happens, there's going to be changes. So what you thought you were paying a premium for may not be ultimately what you get. So that's where we love franchising. You get to put your thumbprint on it from day one. It's a proven business model. And like I said, bringing in that shared support from the franchisor, but then also from Brad's team.
Now, I appreciate it. And the intentionality, behind that, because like you said, in a lot of, when you're looking at brands and you're trying to evaluate, which ones that are a good fit, for you. And so, and again, I know there's kind of an in-depth process you kind of go to help assess people's fit and for franchising. What is some of that line of questioning that you ask people? Because everybody's in different seasons of life, right? I mean, it depends, that are interested in this path. And you kind of touched on some of those, whether it's, entrepreneurs can be a little challenging sometimes, because sometimes they want to reinvent the wheel a lot versus what's proven. You've got the more corporate retired individuals, you've got, the professionals, whether it's doctors, attorneys, and so forth. But any of those folks, like what is the questioning, the kind of hard questions you ask up front to make sure that they are really prepared for going down this path to be a fit for themselves?
Yeah, first off, most people have read my book by the time we get on the call, so we kind of start on third base as far as the conversation goes, and we get into more detail. So, yeah, I want to get to know them, hear their background, what they enjoy doing on a day-to-day basis. If they hate sales, then let's tee them up with a franchise, maybe where it's not as sales heavy or where they can hire a salesperson. And so it's just understanding where they're coming from, how much time can they put in the business, where are they looking to invest. And I'm blessed because I've literally placed hundreds of clients over the last couple of years, and I get to see firsthand, different backgrounds and how they jive with different industries and different roles. And so there's a little bit of science, a little bit of art. Our biggest challenge today is not lack of clients. I've got plenty of clients. The challenge is good opportunities move incredibly fast in good markets. So I'm constantly leveraging my relationships with the franchisors to understand what's coming down the pipeline, and then to try to move my clients up ahead of other candidates as much as I can. And so there's, again, a little bit of science, a little bit of art to everything to getting that perfect match. But just had a client yesterday in Charleston that signed for a restoration business, and it's a great market for that. And but we talk about what we're looking for in a franchise. We're looking for competitive advantages. Obviously, the financial model's got to be there. We're looking at what are current franchisees saying about their experience. You get insight into all this information before you ever sign a franchise agreement. But we're also looking at the leadership teams. We want to understand their backgrounds. Do they have franchise experience represented on that team in addition to industry experience? Because I think it's a different animal from a support standpoint. So, all of that kind of comes into play. And then ultimately we present clients with, give or take 10 opportunities that are available in their market, because I don't want to be so prescriptive that I only hold them to 3 or 4. Oftentimes they outguess me. They go with something that I never would have guessed that they would go for. So try to present them with more than not. And 90% of our clients end up purchasing something that was never even in an industry that was never on their radar. So it's a lot of fun to go through the process together and to have those light bulb moments take place in real time.
And I'll, you can see it, John, here. I think I got your website up to kind of show everybody. You able to see it there on the screen? Absolutely. Yeah. If you come out to our website, FranBridgeConsulting.com, happy to share a free downloadable copy of our book, Non-Food Franchise. Right here. You should have you can click there. You should have a pop-up when you go to the website and just share your email address, and we'll get that over to you. Yeah, it's got tons of content, great resources on here. So we'll post that in all of the notes and everything. We get FranBridgeConsulting.com. Pop on there, and you can request the guide. And one other question I'll ask, and this is, and it'll kind of lead into some of the things we've been working with as an individual, but are you seeing a lot of people that are doing multi-unit now, right? Versus mom and pop just buying one and kind of getting started there. I mean, those are very different paths than individuals that are looking at getting multiple locations. So are you seeing more of that as the trend, as people getting 3, 4, 5? Because depending on what the income and what it throws off, right? I mean, that's kind of where the synergies really happen, and there's bigger income opportunity. So explain a little bit of kind of the single versus the multi-unit journey you're seeing for people. Yeah, and multi-unit could be, customer-facing retail, what you probably think of when you think of franchising, but there's also what we call service-based franchises that are more territory-based, like 250,000 in population or what have you, where they've got all the information the franchisor does at the zip code level to help define those territories. But I'd say 2/3 of our clients do go multi-territory. And if you're going to do something, you want the juice to be worth the squeeze, right? And so it gives them a path to kind of scale over time. You start your marketing efforts in a couple of zip codes of one territory, and then over time you scale that up. So that is a very common approach. And down the line, one way to expand, even if you're landlocked and you've got franchisees around you, it's what I call internal M&A. It's very, very common to actually buy other franchisees out. It gives them an exit, allows you to expand. I've personally, in my history, sold to other franchisees. I've also bought from other franchisees. So most of those resales never hit the open market because they get scooped up by another franchisee in the system. So, there are multiple, you can scale that way. You can also scale through, adding in additional franchise brands down the road or starting your own company. I've got so many case studies of clients of ours that have built a portfolio, built a little empire over time, and the franchise models allowed them to do that. Yeah, and that's what we've kind of seen, exposure-wise, in terms of where people are looking to build, have multi-unit within the same brand, but then diversify, within that brand. We had a big group that we work with that's got everything from great clips to, Taco Bells in terms of, kind of blending between the two of them. Well, awesome. And Brad, let me mention too, I've had a virtual assistant myself
since before they were cool. I think back in the day, Brad, exposed me to the idea and just everything that they can do over there in the Philippines. It's probably been 7 or 8 years now. So very thankful to Brad and how he taught me. We brought him in to teach our company back in the day of how to utilize a virtual assistant, what the best practices were. And just an outstanding resource, foremost expert on the topic.
I appreciate it, man. It's well, and I like I shared, my origin was kind of, using, offshore and VAs during my last business, and just grew to just unbelievable competency and ability and work ethic with these individuals, and such an impact it made on my life and my business that, kind of inspired me to want to kind of go down that path. I love educating and sharing. And like I said, before I even got started with this company, I did a lot of speaking globally and educating people about it, and share tons of case studies and examples, and really kind of help bring to life for people. Because, when you talk about offshoring and outsourcing, right, and Jon, you can maybe speak to it, is I talk about, those word bubbles. When you say virtual assistant, when you say Philippines, when you say, outsourcing, there's these word bubbles that pop up above people's heads. I can kind of almost see them, right? And then you kind of have to educate and kind of explain what this whole world is and how it works and so forth. So, I mean, for yourself, kind of going down that journey, what were some of the perceptions you had, with the virtual assistant, what that experience would be, relative to then ultimately on the other side, what your experience, and maybe just a high level of a few things that you've been using them for, just been supporting.
Yeah. I think I've got a different background in that 2 years after college, I found myself in India for 6 months working on an outsourcing arrangement. So now I quickly learned, I think I have an appreciation for outsourcing, having seen the other side, having been on the ground. But no, I've really stuck to the Philippines for my virtual assistants over the years, and it's served me well. I mean, they're so versed in English. I mean, that's a good career path over there, and they're loyal. I'm making generalities, but I'd say, relatively speaking, very loyal people. They want to please. Very smart, and just been very impressed. And in my case, my assistant is not client facing. He works on the back end. But I could not do the things that I do if he wasn't putting together the presentations, reaching out to the franchisors that I got him to reach out to check territory availability. He helps me a good bit with social media, or cutting up podcast into video assets that we can leverage out there. So he's a huge assistant, and he told me he wants to retire with FranBridge, which I'm pleased to hear. So the cost of changing personnel, once they have that institutional knowledge, is pretty painful. So, I probably overpay versus the going rate, but I'm willing to. And he's just a great team member. He's part of the family.
Yeah, and that's what you end up doing. You end up building kind of a relationship, with those individuals. So it makes it, and that's what I was kind of surprised me in my journey, my very first VA that I kind of worked with, and the path that we ended up taking together, and was just kind of blown away about her ability, her work ethic, and crazy enough, she became my COO over 500 people in 4 years, and just their ability to raise their lid.
J-Cell, we all know J-Cell. She's famous.
Yeah, now she's a huge part of my life and my journey, and forever. There's have certain people in your life that just sort of change the path and give you a whole perspective and insight on things that you never knew you'd take. And so that's kind of what led me down, my road. So as far as kind of, sharing a little bit more on the VA side and the whole franchising space of things, and I'll pull up, I actually just did a big webinar for a big mastermind for, that are multi-unit owners. We worked with individuals, multi-unit, and also have worked with, with a lot of, at the franchisor level as well, that are kind of looking to reshape and think about how they're scaling and growing. And it's a relatively new concept in this, in this space. I'll pop up my screen here.
And Brad, I know AI is the buzzword of the day, and you and I are both blown away. We find new use cases every day, but I've been really impressed at how you've enabled your VAs to really utilize AI, and you're creating best practices, and kind of they're bringing that to a lot of these companies.
Yeah, and that's part of it. At the end of the day, in my business, we have no choice but to really be at the forefront of it and train our staff in the AI and how to use GPT, and kind of how to integrate it into what they're doing, so that they can kind of take a VA plus AI, and it's kind of like 1 + 1 = 4 in the experience. So to kind of guide a little bit of my dialogue, and actually one of those examples, so we had a VA helping a painting franchise that was trying to connect with a bunch of commercial property owners, because they drive a lot of referral business to them, and we were able to take GPT, and our VA was able to go in and create the right prompts to create a whole 20-part nurture sequence via LinkedIn, via email, and then execute that campaign to do outreach to get referral partners and relationships, right? So it was using GPT to kind of do a lot of the cognitive heavy lift, right? And then the VA was actually able to go in and use their CRM system and initiate the emails, as well as log in under the owner's LinkedIn account and do the outreach on their behalf to try and set appointments for them. So that's just one of many examples around that, that path. So yeah, here at Outsource Access, we ended up, once we started getting more interest in that industry, I mean, these are all the industries and stuff that we serve, but we ended up, finding more opportunity and interest in the space. And so we actually created our franchise support system. So it's in essence, whether it's a franchisee or a franchisor, yeah, we have our pop-up there. Actually, if you go there, you can download our guide. And then our franchise virtual assistants brand specifically. So that's kind of the model we've created to support specifically, that brand. And I'll provide a reference point to give you guys a bunch of resources on it. And I'll give you our whole guide to our franchise support system model around accelerating location launches, local partner referral programs, how to build those at scale, which is a big part of the revenue generation for, a lot of franchisees, how you tap into your local community. And then, affordable daily operations support around marketing, sales, and so forth. And just to show, a couple of quick slide examples, from our journey here, and there's our cover slide for our LinkedIn Live that we did. And just to share real quick, to everybody here, we'll provide, you can see the links that we share, but if you just shoot an email to tools@outsourceaccess.com, and just put franchise in the subject line, we'll send you a whole bunch of things, a guide to leveraging offshore teams for franchises. We'll send you a list of 700 tasks. We've done 6 million hours worth of work over the last 6 years. So we'll send you 700 tasks across all divisions, marketing, sales, operations. And then this 2-question exercise that we do that will really help you unpack where the constraint points are of how you could actually use, a VA and offshoring in your business. And of course, we'll send you a link of how to get access. You can go directly to his website, but in that email, if you shoot us an email to tools at Outsource Access, we'll make sure we send it a link directly to Jon's website to get a copy of his non-food franchising book. You can have access. But just to show, and again, this is a whole presentation I got a chance to do the other day for multi-unit whole mastermind group, and kind of went through a lot of what the doubt, fears, and concerns that people navigate around this whole space and the challenges that they have. And I show, even inside of our offices, right? People can kind of see, oh, what about the conditions and what they're working in, right? So we take a moment to say, and they're like, oh, that's in the Philippines? That's nicer than my office, right? Or, I shared video of Jacelle, one of the first videos that I had her shoot when I started speaking on this. I'm like, hey, could you just take a video of yourself and follow yourself for a day so people could see kind of how you communicate and so we'll provide you a link with all this, but she kind of shows her entire journey and a day in the life of a VA. She's working a coffee shop on an Apple MacBook, right? So it's a very different perception than a lot of people, have around it. And one of the quick case studies that that we talked about. This is in the food space. No offense, Jon, happened to be one, but it was one of the ones we worked with. But this is a chain of barbecue restaurants, Dreamland Barbecue, right? They were struggling with some challenges around finance, operations, cost management, business development, and so we did that 2-question exercise. What are things on your plate you want off that you want help with? What are things you're not getting to in the organization? And then we identified the first staff with them, and then we ended up adding 3 or 4 more now. So first one was this staff ended up doing all the accounting and bookkeeping for all of their locations. We calculate royalties and commissions and so forth. And then they added an additional one that's now doing inventory management across all the locations, everything from the styrofoam cup status to ordering pork and so forth. So full range of options there, right? And on our website, got a ton of other case studies and examples. And then, this is a national men's healthcare. Some of these mention the brands, some they like to mention the brands or not mention the brands. Men's healthcare space, right? They were dealing with struggle around operations, marketing, sales. We ended up placing 2 staff with them. And this was a multi-unit owner that had several locations and trying to get open faster and quicker. And we placed a staff that learned the entire launch playbook from the franchisor, and then was able to execute and work directly with one of the franchise owners. And then another staff that was able to help with all the local marketing, everything from finding local partner referral relationships to community relationships, data scrape a list of 700 or 800 local businesses that would refer business to them, able to get things done in 3 or 4 days that would have taken them, 3 or 4 months, potentially on what their support, resources are. So So it's a ton of case studies kind of around in this capacity, right? So it's understanding what the constraints are and then how you can kind of plug staff in, to support the organization. And so I'll share real quick, this is the visual, and I'll pass it over to you. But it really starts with this, right? And we start with everyone. I encourage everybody to do this exercise. What are you currently doing you feel is not the best use of your time, and how many hours per month? And what are things on the radar you want to be doing that you aren't getting to due to time, money, or knowledge constraint? And I know it seems super simple, but those two simple questions, here's a live example from a company we worked with, came up with 100 items on that list, right? We work through it, we distill it, turn it into roles, and also kind of what they can expect from an ROI standpoint. So anyway, that's a few kind of perspectives on our end on how you can integrate VAs into your world, whether you're an individual franchisee, you're multi-unit, or if there's franchisors that are kind of listening out there. So hopefully that's been helpful for you guys today. And like I said, just shoot an email to tools at outsourceaccess.com, put franchise in the subject line, and we'll send a bunch of resources. And if you look down below this on the LinkedIn Live, we'll put a bunch of links as well, including Jon's website that you can access. So hopefully that'll be helpful for everybody. So been fantastic. Jon, thanks so much for kind of giving your insights and perspective, and for the freebies for everybody kind of attending. And so we look forward to sharing that message, and you'll be seeing he and I a lot more on LinkedIn. We live and breathe there a lot, and with education and content, and he and I are working on maybe we can do a 2 or 3 part series breaking down some of these components and kind of going deeper in some of these subjects as we move ahead. So well, appreciate it, Jon. Thanks so much. And so again, right, franchise, FranBridgeConsulting.com is the website. That's the main place to go where they can get all the goodies and contact you, correct?
That's right. Yeah, no, look forward to future segments, and that was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And then outsourceaccess.com. You can go to our website, do the drop down. If you go to /franchise, you can go directly to our franchise support system page and book a call with one of our team members. Happy to do a free deep dive discovery with you. Similar to Jon, we'll kind of help figure out what your constraints and help you do that little mini 2-question exercise, facilitate that process, and see where we could be a help and support you and get you a resource in, very cost effective, that can help redefine how you scale. So thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll close out here. Take care, Jon.
All right, buddy.
Bye-bye.